Blind dragon hatchling was abandoned. Now he sleeps beside his human friend. The mining drill screamed against crystal formations, sending purple sparks flying across the cave entrance. Dr. Sam Rivers pulled her helmet visor down and stepped away from the noise. She had come to Dust Haven's eastern caves to collect mineral samples, not to listen to machinery tear apart geological wonders that had taken millions of years to form. Her boots crunched on loose gravel as she walked deeper into the cave system. The mining company would strip this place bare within a month, but for now, she could still document the native life forms that called these crystal chambers home. Her scanner beeped softly, detecting organic compounds near the back wall. Sam followed the signal through a narrow passage that opened into a larger chamber. Crystalline formations jutted from every surface, casting rainbow patterns in the light from her headlamp. She knelt beside a cluster of purple crystals and began taking readings when she heard it, a soft whimpering sound barely audible over the distant drilling. She turned off her scanner and listened. There it was again, a weak, desperate sound coming from behind a fallen boulder. Sam climbed over the rocks and found herself staring at something that made her heart skip a beat. A small dragon lay curled against the cave wall. Its scales were deep blue-black but dull and dry from dehydration. The creature was no bigger than a house cat, with delicate wings folded against its sides. What struck Sam most were its eyes. They were completely white like pale moons in its small head. The dragon lifted its head weakly when her light hit it. Instead of the aggressive snarl she expected from even a young dragon, it made a soft chirping sound, like a lost bird calling for its mother. Sam's training told her to back away immediately. Dragons were apex predators across dozens of worlds. Even hatchlings could breathe fire hot enough to melt metal. The adult dragons that occasionally attacked settlements were the stuff of nightmares, 20 feet long, covered in armor-like scales, with teeth that could crush starship hull plating. But this little creature looked nothing like those monsters. It was trembling, and when it tried to stand, its legs gave out. Sam could see its ribs through its thin scales. It was starving. She activated her comm unit. "Base camp, this is Dr. Rivers. I need to report a discovery." The voice of Colony Administrator Hayes crackled through the static. "What kind of discovery, Doc?" "I found a dragon hatchling in the eastern caves." The line went silent for several seconds. "Did you say dragon?" "Yes, but it's injured. Appears to be abandoned and—" "Step away from it immediately," Hayes interrupted. "I'm sending a security team to eliminate the threat." "Wait," Sam said quickly. "It's not a threat. The creature is blind and barely alive. It needs medical attention." "Dragons don't need medical attention, Doctor. They need to be destroyed before they can grow up and kill people. Security team is en route. Stay clear of the target." Sam looked down at the small dragon. It had managed to lift its head again and was making soft clicking sounds, almost like it was trying to communicate. Its blind eyes turned toward her voice. She made a decision that would change everything. "Understood, Administrator. I'll wait for the security team." Sam switched off her comm and knelt beside the dragon. "Sorry, little one. I can't let them hurt you." The dragon didn't resist as Sam carefully lifted it. The creature was lighter than she expected, and she could feel its rapid heartbeat against her chest. It made a small sound, almost like a purr, and tucked its head under her chin. Sam's research station was a 30-minute walk from the caves. She took the long route, avoiding the main mining areas where workers might spot her unusual passenger. The dragon remained quiet during the journey, occasionally making those soft clicking sounds. Her station was a prefab building designed for one person. Sam set up a makeshift bed for the dragon using thermal blankets and placed it near the heating unit. The creature curled up immediately, its breathing shallow but steady. She mixed up a nutrient solution and offered it to the dragon using a feeding tube. At first it didn't understand what she was trying to do, but when a drop of the liquid touched its mouth, the dragon began drinking eagerly. It finished the entire container and made a sound that Sam could only describe as grateful. Over the next few hours, Sam watched the dragon carefully. Its breathing became stronger, and its scales began to show more color. When she offered more food, it ate slowly as if savoring each drop. The most remarkable thing was how the dragon reacted to her presence. When she moved around the station, its head would track her movements despite its blindness. It listened to everything, responding to her voice with soft chirps and clicks. Her comm unit buzzed. "Dr. Rivers, this is Security Chief Morton. We searched the caves but found no sign of the dragon. Are you certain of your initial report? I may have been mistaken, Sam lied. The lighting was poor and it might have been a rock formation. Understood. But stay alert. If there's a dragon in the area, we need to eliminate it quickly. Sam looked at the small creature sleeping peacefully on her makeshift bed. It had rolled onto its back, tiny paws in the air, completely trusting and vulnerable. This was no monster. This was just a baby who had been abandoned and left to die. She activated her research terminal and began a new file. Personal log, Day 1. Subject appears to be a juvenile dragon, approximately 3 days old based on scale development. Shows signs of abandonment and malnutrition. Blindness appears to be congenital rather than injury-related. Initial behavior suggests high intelligence and capacity for emotional bonding. The dragon opened its white eyes at the sound of her typing. It made a soft questioning sound. It's okay, little one, Sam whispered. You're safe here. The dragon seemed to understand. It made one more small sound, almost like a sigh of contentment, and fell asleep. For the first time since its hatching, it was warm, fed, and protected. Sam watched over the sleeping dragon and wondered what she had gotten herself into. The colony would never accept a dragon living among them, even a harmless one. But looking at the peaceful expression on the creature's face, she knew she had made the right choice. Some bonds transcend species, fear, and common sense. This was the beginning of one of those bonds. 3 months had passed since Sam found the dragon hatchling, and the changes were remarkable. The creature she now called Echo had grown from cat-size to the size of a medium dog. His scales had developed a beautiful deep blue sheen, and his wings, while still not large enough for flight, had strengthened considerably. Echo's name came from his unique way of navigating the world. He would make rapid clicking sounds with his tongue, then tilt his head to listen for the echoes. Sam had watched in fascination as he mapped out her entire research station using this natural sonar. He could detect objects as small as a dropped stylus or as large as approaching vehicles from hundreds of meters away. The morning routine had become second nature. Echo would wake before dawn and make soft trilling sounds until Sam got up. Then he would follow her around the station, staying close enough that his shoulder brushed against her leg. When she worked at her terminal, he would curl up beside her chair, his head resting on her foot. Sam was reviewing mineral analysis reports when Echo suddenly lifted his head. His ears, which had grown more pointed as he matured, swiveled toward the window. He made a low rumbling sound deep in his chest. "What is it, Echo?" Sam asked, setting down her tablet. The dragon stood and moved to the window, his clicking becoming more rapid. Sam joined him and saw 3 colony security vehicles approaching across the dusty plain. Her stomach dropped. Echo pressed against her leg and made an urgent chirping sound. He could sense her fear through smell and body language changes that humans couldn't detect. Over the past month, Sam had learned that Echo could read emotions better than most people could read faces. The vehicles stopped outside her station. Administrator Hayes stepped out of the lead vehicle, followed by 6 security officers. Sam took a deep breath and activated the station's external speakers. "Administrator Hayes, what brings you out here today?" Hayes looked up at the speaker mounted near her door. "We need to talk, Doctor. Face to face." Sam looked down at Echo, who was now making soft clicking sounds as he sensed the approaching humans. "Stay here," she whispered. "Stay quiet." She opened the door and stepped outside, sealing it behind her. Hayes approached with 2 officers while the others remained by their vehicles. "Dr. Rivers, we've received reports of unusual sounds coming from your station. Sounds that don't match any known equipment or local wildlife?" "I'm not sure what you mean," Sam replied, keeping her voice steady. "Clicking sounds, trilling, almost like..." Hayes paused and studied her face. "Almost like dragon vocalizations." Before Sam could respond, a loud crash echoed from inside the station. Through the window, she could see that Echo had knocked over an equipment rack. The young dragon appeared at the window, pressing his face against the glass. The security officers immediately drew their weapons. Echo saw the sudden movement and made a sound Sam had never heard before. A deep, resonant roar that seemed impossible for his size. "Stand back, Doctor," Hayes ordered. "That's a Class A hostile alien species." "He's not hostile," Sam said quickly. "His name is Echo. He's blind and completely harmless." "Harmless?" One of the officers laughed harshly. "Lady, that thing will grow up to be 20 feet of flying death. We've all seen the reports from the outer colonies." Echo had moved away from the window, but Sam could hear him inside. making distressed sounds. He could sense the fear and aggression from the humans outside. "He's different," Sam insisted. "He's never shown any aggressive behavior. He's intelligent, gentle, and he needs to be destroyed before he becomes a problem," Hayes interrupted. "Dr. Rivers, you're officially relieved of duty. Pack your personal belongings. We'll handle the creature." "No." The word came out harder than Sam intended. "You can't just murder him because of what other dragons have done." Hayes signaled to his officers. "Prepare the sonic charges. We'll bring down the whole station if necessary." That's when everything changed. A new sound filled the air, the whine of approaching engines. But these weren't colony vehicles. Sam recognized the irregular pulse of jury-rigged ship engines. Pirates. 3 small attack ships crested the nearby hills, their weapons already charging. The lead ship opened fire on the security vehicles, sending the officers scrambling for cover. "Raider attack," Hayes shouted into his comm. "All units converge on Research Station 7. The pirates landed their ships in a defensive triangle around Sam's station. Armed figures in mismatched armor poured out, firing at anything that moved. They had clearly chosen this remote location for a reason. Sam dove behind her station's external storage unit as energy blasts scorched the ground around her. She could hear Echo inside, his distress sounds growing louder. 2 pirates approached the station door, plasma rifles raised. "Check inside," one of them called. "Intel says there's valuable research data here." The door exploded inward under their breaching charges. Sam heard Echo make that impossible roar again, followed by sounds of struggle and human screams. One of the pirates came flying back out through the doorway, his armor smoking. He landed hard and didn't get up. The second pirate tried to back away, but something dark and fast shot out of the station after him. Echo had grown, but Sam had never seen him move like this. Despite his blindness, he moved with perfect precision, using his sonar to track every movement. His claws, which seemed so harmless when he played with her equipment, now gleamed like black knives. The pirate raised his rifle, but Echo was already in motion. The dragon's tail swept the human's legs while his jaws clamped down on the weapon, crushing the energy cell. The rifle exploded harmlessly, and the pirate fled toward his ship. More pirates converged on Echo's position, but the young dragon had advantages they couldn't match. He could hear their heartbeats, smell their fear, sense the electrical fields from their weapons. Every shot missed as Echo seemed to know where they would aim before they pulled their triggers. Security Chief Morton and his remaining officers used the distraction to flank the raiders. The battle was over in minutes, with most of the pirates either dead or fleeing to their ships. Hayes approached Sam slowly, his weapon lowered. Echo stood between them, his head raised and alert but no longer aggressive. "That thing just saved all our lives," Morton said quietly. Hayes stared at Echo for a long moment. The dragon's blind white eyes seemed to look right through him. "It's still a dragon. It's still dangerous. So are you," Sam replied, standing up and brushing dust from her clothes. "But I don't see anyone calling for your elimination." Echo made a soft questioning sound and moved to Sam's side. She placed her hand on his head, feeling the subtle ridges where his horns would eventually grow. He leaned into her touch and made that contented purring sound. "The Colony Council will want a full report," Hayes said finally. "About the dragon. About what happened here," Sam nodded. "Then I'll tell them the truth. Echo isn't a monster. He's my friend. And today he proved that friendship works both ways." The administrator walked back to his vehicle without another word. Sam watched him drive away, then knelt beside Echo. "You did good today, boy. You protected people who wanted to hurt you." She scratched behind his ears, a spot that always made him purr. "I'm proud of you." Echo nuzzled against her shoulder and made soft clicking sounds. In the distance, the sun was setting over Dust Haven's crystal formations, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. It had been a day of revelations, but Sam felt a chill of premonition. Word would spread quickly about what had happened. A dragon that could fight with intelligence and precision, a creature that chose to protect rather than destroy. Some people would see it as Sam did, as proof that Echo was special. Others would see it as proof that he was more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The neural interface headset felt heavy in Sam's hands as she prepared for what might be the most important experiment of her career. Echo lay on the padded examination table, completely relaxed despite the strange equipment surrounding him. Over the past week, Sam had been preparing him for this moment with careful training sessions. It had been 2 weeks since the pirate attack, and everything had changed. Word about Echo's protective actions had spread throughout the colony and beyond. Some colonists now viewed him as a guardian, while others whispered that he was even more dangerous than a normal dragon because he could think and plan. The neural interface was designed for cross-species communication research. Sam had used it successfully with various alien species, but never with a dragon. The technology could translate basic thoughts and emotions between different nervous systems, though the process required complete trust from both participants. "Okay, Echo," Sam said softly, adjusting the specialized headset designed for his unique skull shape, "just like we practiced. Stay calm and let your mind relax." Echo made his familiar clicking sounds, mapping the room one more time before settling down. The headset's sensors aligned with the neural pathways along his skull ridges. Sam put on her own interface and activated the system. At first, there was only static. Then, like tuning into a distant radio station, Sam began to sense something else in her mind. Not words, but impressions, emotions, images that weren't her own. The first thing she felt was love. Pure, uncomplicated affection directed toward her. Along with it came memories. Her voice calling to him in the cave. The warmth of her hands as she fed him. The safety of sleeping beside her chair while she worked. But beneath those happy memories lay something darker. Sam saw flashes of Echo's earliest days, the moment of his hatching in a nest high above the crystal caves, his mother's shock when she saw his white eyes. The rejection from his siblings when they realized he was different. The images became clearer as the neural link strengthened. Sam watched through Echo's memories as his mother carried him far from the nest. She saw the cave where he was abandoned, not out of cruelty but out of fear. Fear that the other dragons would kill not just Echo, but his entire clutch, if they discovered what he was. Then came the revelation that changed everything. Words formed in Sam's mind, not heard but understood directly. "You saved me from the dark place." Sam nearly pulled off the headset in surprise. "Echo, you can communicate?" "Yes, always could. Hard to make the word sounds you use. Easier this way." The communication was simple, like talking to a young child, but the intelligence behind it was unmistakable. Sam steadied herself and continued the connection. "Echo, why did your mother leave you?" The answer came with a flood of genetic memory. Information passed down through dragon generations. Sam saw images of other dragons like Echo throughout history. Dragons with unusual intelligence, different abilities, stronger connections to other species. The dragon clans called them primes. Primes are feared by dragonkind, Echo explained through the link. "We think too much, feel too much, bond with other species. Dragons see this as disease. Humans see this as threat." Sam processed this information. "How many primes are there?" "Few, most killed young. Some escape, hide among other species. Very few survive to adult size." The neural link carried more than words. Sam felt Echo's loneliness, the deep sadness of being rejected by his own kind. But she also felt something else. Hope. The joy he found in their friendship had healed much of that early trauma. "Echo, are there others like you? Other primes who survived?" "Some. Far apart, scared, hiding." Before Sam could ask more questions, her comm unit activated with an emergency tone. She reluctantly disconnected the neural link and answered the call. "Dr. Rivers, this is Colony Command. You're ordered to report to headquarters immediately. Bring the dragon." Sam looked at Echo, who was already standing and making agitated sounds. His enhanced hearing had picked up something in the transmission that she missed. The trip to Colony headquarters took 20 minutes by transport vehicle. Echo sat beside Sam, his head pressed against her shoulder. She could feel tension in his muscles, and his clicking had become more frequent and urgent. Colony headquarters was a fortress-like structure in the center of the settlement. Armed guards flanked the entrance, and Sam noticed military vehicles she didn't recognize parked in the compound. Administrator Hayes met them in the main lobby, but he wasn't alone. A woman in military uniform stood beside him, her insignia marking her as a high-ranking officer from the Colonial Defense Force. "Dr. Rivers, this is General Park. She's here about your dragon." General Park stepped forward, her expression neutral but her eyes focused intently on Echo. "Doctor, I need you to understand that this situation has escalated beyond colony jurisdiction. Intelligence reports indicate your creature represents a significant security risk." "Echo isn't a risk," Sam replied firmly. "He's proven himself to be protective of humans." "That's exactly the problem. Park activated a holographic display showing news feeds from across the galaxy. Word has spread about a dragon that fights with tactical intelligence. Every terrorist group, pirate clan, and hostile alien species is now wondering if they can acquire similar creatures for their own purposes. The display showed military briefings, scientific analyses, and political debates, all centered around one question: what would happen if someone weaponized a prime dragon? Furthermore, Park continued, we have intelligence suggesting that other dragons are becoming aware of your creature's existence. Adult dragons don't typically venture into human space, but that may be changing. Echo had been listening to the conversation, his head tilted toward each speaker. Suddenly, he made a sound Sam had never heard before, a long, mournful call that seemed to echo through the building. What was that? Hayes asked nervously. Sam placed her hand on Echo's head. Even without the neural interface, she could sense his distress. He's scared. You're talking about him like he's a weapon instead of a person. Because that's what he could become in the wrong hands, Park replied. Dr. Rivers, I have orders to transfer the creature to a secure research facility. There, teams of specialists can study its abilities, safely. You mean cage him and experiment on him? I mean protect humanity from a potential threat while ensuring the creature is treated humanely. Echo made another sound, this one deeper and more urgent. He moved to stand between Sam and the military officers, his posture protective but not aggressive. He won't go, Sam said quietly, and you can't make him without a fight. Doctor, this isn't a negotiation, Park began. Her words were cut off by a new sound. A deep rumble that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Through the headquarters windows, Sam could see colonists looking up at the sky in confusion. Then she saw them. 3 massive shapes moving across the evening sky. Adult dragons, each one the size of a small aircraft. Their wings casting shadows over the settlement. Echo's distress calls had been answered. Colony defense systems, activate immediately, Hayes shouted into his comm. But Echo stepped forward and made a different sound. A complex series of clicks, trills, and rumbles. The adult dragons circled once more, then landed just outside the colony perimeter. Through the neural link, Sam understood what was happening. These weren't random dragons drawn by Echo's calls. They were his family. His mother and 2 others come to see what had become of the blind hatchling they had abandoned. General, Sam said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them, I think your secure facility just became irrelevant. The dragons are here to talk. Park stared out at the massive creatures now surrounding the colony. Dragons don't talk to humans. Sam looked down at Echo, who was pressing against her leg for comfort while simultaneously preparing to face his own kind, for the first time since his abandonment. Prime dragons do. The stolen freighter shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace near the asteroid mining station Gamma 7. Sam adjusted Echo's travel harness and peered through the small viewport at their destination. After 3 weeks on the run from both human and dragon authorities, they had finally found someone willing to help. Echo made soft clicking sounds as he sensed the change in the ship's movement. He had grown again during their flight, now approaching the size of a pony, but he still sought comfort by pressing close to Sam whenever they faced uncertainty. Welcome to our little sanctuary, said Captain Reed, the gruff woman who had agreed to transport them. Reed ran supplies to frontier colonies and had her own reasons for avoiding government attention. Fair warning, though, Doc. The folks here are all running from something. They might not trust you right away. The mining station was a converted asteroid. Its surface bristled with docking ports and sensor arrays. As their ship approached, Sam could see other vessels of various sizes docked around the facility. None of them looked like standard commercial or military ships. They docked without incident, and Reed led them through corridors carved directly from the asteroid rock. The walls were lined with cables and pipes, giving the place a rough industrial feel that reminded Sam more of a cave system than a space station. Dr. Rivers? A woman's voice called from ahead. Sam saw someone approaching, accompanied by what looked like a large crystalline spider walking on 6 delicate legs. I'm Beth, the station coordinator, and this is Shimmer. The crystal spider turned its multifaceted head toward Echo and made a sound like wind chimes. Echo responded with his own clicking, and Sam was amazed to see both creatures relax visibly. They're talking, Beth explained with a smile. Shimmer says your friend has very polite manners for a dragon. She's only met one other dragon before, and it tried to eat her. As they walked deeper into the station, Sam saw more unusual partnerships. A man sat at a control console while a creature that looked like a living plant fed him information through touch telepathy. Two children played with what appeared to be a small furry creature that occasionally flickered between visible and invisible. "We're all refugees here," Beth explained. "People who bonded with aliens that the authorities considered dangerous or impossible. When the governments decided to separate bonded pairs for public safety, we found each other." They arrived at a larger chamber carved from the asteroid's center. Dozens of humans and their alien partners moved about, working on various projects. The atmosphere was busy but peaceful, like a small community that had learned to function despite its unusual nature. "How many are there?" Sam asked. "Here? About 50 humans and their partners. But we're connected to similar groups on a dozen other worlds. The network keeps growing as more people discover they're not alone." Echo explored the chamber, his clicking echoing off the stone walls. Several aliens approached him curiously, while their human partners watched the interaction with interest. Sam's comm unit buzzed with an incoming message. She recognized the encryption signature immediately. "It's from General Park." The message was brief but chilling. "Dr. Rivers, you have 72 hours to surrender yourself and the creature for processing. After that, we will assume you have been compromised by hostile alien influence and will take appropriate action." "They're not just hunting us," Sam realized. "They're going to label everyone here as traitors." Beth nodded grimly. "We expected this. The authorities can't tolerate proof that their policies are wrong. If bonded pairs are successful and peaceful, it undermines everything they've built their power on." Over the next day, Sam learned about the network's history. It had started 5 years earlier, when a research scientist named David formed a partnership with an alien that could predict stellar phenomena. The government wanted to weaponize the alien's abilities, and when David refused, they were both declared enemies of the state. Others had joined them over time. A teacher whose student was an alien child whose species learned through memory sharing, an engineer whose partner could manipulate metal at the molecular level, a farmer whose companion could accelerate plant growth through biochemical secretion. Each story was the same. Humans and aliens who had found genuine partnership and friendship, only to be branded as threats by authorities who feared what they couldn't control. Echo had become particularly close to an alien called Whisper, a creature that resembled a large otter with iridescent fur. Whisper's human partner, a young woman named Lisa, explained that her companion could sense emotional disturbances across vast distances. "Whisper is how we've stayed ahead of the hunters," Lisa said. "She can feel their approach hours before our sensors pick them up." That evening, Whisper began making distressed sounds. Lisa's face went pale as she interpreted the aliens' warnings. "They're coming. A full military task force. General Park herself is leading them." The station erupted into controlled chaos. Some residents prepared to flee, while others readied defensive systems. Echo stayed close to Sam, his clicking becoming rapid and urgent. "We have maybe 6 hours," Beth announced. "Anyone who wants to evacuate should do it now." Sam was torn. Running meant abandoning these people who had shown them kindness. But staying meant endangering Echo, who was clearly the primary target of Park's task force. Echo solved the dilemma for her. He moved to the center of the chamber and made a complex series of sounds. Every alien in the room stopped what they were doing and turned toward him. "What's he doing?" Sam asked. Shimmer's crystalline body chimed softly as she communicated with Beth. "He's asking them to help him make a stand. He says he's tired of running, and that humans protected him when his own kind wouldn't." One by one, the aliens began responding to Echo's call. Each species made their own unique sounds, creating a symphony of non-human voices. Sam felt tears in her eyes as she realized what was happening. They were choosing to fight, not just for their own freedom, but for Echo, for the idea that different species could choose to stand together. "Doc," Captain Reed appeared at Sam's side. "My ship's fueled and ready. I can get you and the Dragon out of here before the shooting starts." Sam looked at Echo, who had grown quiet now that his message had been delivered. His white eyes seemed to be looking directly at her, waiting for her decision. "Thank you, Captain, but we're staying. You sure? This is going to get ugly fast." Sam placed her hand on Echo's head, feeling the subtle vibration of his purring. "Some things are worth fighting for, even if you can't win." Echo made a soft sound and leaned against her. Around them, the station's residents continued their preparations. Humans and aliens working together, preparing to defend not just their sanctuary, but the principle that friendship could transcend species barriers. In the distance, sensors detected the approaching task force. General Park was coming with enough firepower to reduce the asteroid to dust, but she would find something waiting for her that military strategists had never planned for. A community willing to fight for each other, regardless of what world they came from or how many limbs they had. Echo clicked once softly and Sam understood. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. The blind dragon hatchling who had been abandoned by his own kind had found a new family worth protecting, and they would protect him in return. The first warning came from Whisper, whose emotional sensing abilities detected the military task force while it was still an hour away. The crystalline creature's distressed chimes filled the asteroid station's main chamber, as Lisa translated the urgent message. 12 ships, military class. General Park's flagship is leading them. Lisa's face was pale as she relayed what Whisper sensed from the approaching humans. They're not planning to negotiate. Echo had positioned himself at the center of the chamber, his head raised and alert. Over the past few hours, something had changed about him. His movements were more confident, his posture more commanding. Sam realized that for the first time in his life, Echo was surrounded by others who accepted him completely. Station defenses are online, Beth reported from the command center. But we're a mining facility, not a fortress. Those military ships could reduce us to scrap in minutes. Sam watched Echo as he made a series of complex sounds, directed at the various aliens throughout the station. She had learned to recognize some of his communication patterns, but this was different, more sophisticated. What's he doing? She asked Lisa, whose partner Whisper seemed to be responding to Echo's calls. He's coordinating them, Lisa said with amazement. Whisper says he's creating a tactical network. Each species is sharing their unique abilities to create a unified defense plan. Around the chamber, the alien partners began moving with purpose. Shimmer, the crystal spider, skittered to the sensor array and began interfacing directly with the station's detection systems. Her crystalline body could process electromagnetic signals far better than any computer. The plant-like alien that worked with the control operator began extending vine tendrils. Throughout the station's infrastructure, Sam realized it was creating a biological communication network, allowing instant coordination between all areas of the facility. Other aliens took positions throughout the station. Some she recognized from their week of hiding here. Others were species she had never seen before. Each one had abilities that seemed perfectly suited for defense when properly coordinated. Incoming transmission, Beth announced. General Park wants to talk. The main screen activated, showing Park's stern face. Behind her, Sam could see the bridge of a military cruiser, busy with officers preparing for combat. Dr. Rivers, this is your final opportunity to surrender. Bring the creature to Docking Bay 7 immediately and no one else needs to be hurt. Sam stepped forward, Echo beside her. General, these people have done nothing wrong. They're not terrorists or criminals. They're just families trying to live in peace. Families? Park's expression hardened. Doctor, you've been compromised by prolonged exposure to alien influence. These creatures have manipulated you into believing their propaganda. The only manipulation here is coming from people who refuse to see aliens as anything but threats, Sam replied. Echo made a soft sound and moved closer to the screen. When Park saw him clearly for the first time, her expression changed. The young dragon was nearly adult-sized now, his scales gleaming with health, his bearing noble despite his blindness. That creature will grow into a killing machine capable of destroying entire settlements, Park said, but her voice lacked its earlier certainty. This creature protected a human colony from pirates, Sam countered. He's never harmed anyone except in defense of others. Enough discussion. You have 10 minutes to comply, or we will assume hostile intent and act accordingly. The transmission ended. Around the chamber, the alien partners had completed their preparations. Echo made another series of sounds, and Sam felt something she had never experienced before. Through some combination of his natural telepathic abilities and the network he had created, she could sense the emotions of everyone on the station, human and alien alike, all linked through Echo's coordination. Fear was present, but it was overwhelmed by determination and mutual affection. They're launching fighters, Shimmer announced, her crystalline voice chiming through the communication network. The first attack came exactly 10 minutes later. Military fighters strafed the asteroid's surface. targeting defensive emplacements and docking ports, but the attacks were met with responses no military planner had anticipated. The invisible aliens Sam had seen earlier began appearing and disappearing around the attacking fighters, confusing their targeting systems. The plant creature's biological network rerouted power and communications faster than the pilots could adapt to the changing defensive positions. Echo stood in the center of it all, his clicking sounds coordinating the entire defense. Sam realized he wasn't just communicating with the aliens on the station. His calls were reaching out farther, touching minds across space itself. Multiple contacts approaching from the outer system, Beth reported with amazement. I'm reading dozens of ships, but they're not military. The response to Echo's call for help was unlike anything in recorded history. Ships arrived from across the sector, each one carrying bonded pairs who had been in hiding, miners with their crystalline partners, researchers with symbiotic aliens, even some commercial vessels whose crews included non-human members. General Park's voice crackled over the communication system. Unknown vessels, you are interfering with a military operation. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The response came not from any single ship, but from Echo himself. The young dragon's telepathic abilities had grown strong enough to project his thoughts directly to the military fleet. Sam felt the message as Echo sent it, carried through the network to every mind that could receive it. Images of friendship, protection, and mutual understanding. The memory of being abandoned and alone. Then finding acceptance among humans. The choice to protect rather than destroy. Several of the military ships stopped firing. Sam could see through the station's sensors that some of the crews were hesitating, uncertain about their orders for the first time. But Park's flagship continued its assault. Energy beams lanced out toward the asteroid, only to be deflected by a shimmering barrier that appeared around the station. Sam realized that several of the alien species working together could create defensive effects that no single creature could manage alone. General Park, Sam transmitted directly to the flagship. You're attacking families, children, people whose only crime was choosing friendship over fear. Those things are not people, Park replied. But her voice carried less conviction. That's when Echo did something that changed everything. He opened his telepathic network not just to the defenders, but to the attacking fleet as well. For the first time in human history, soldiers found themselves experiencing direct mental contact with alien intelligence. The effect was immediate and profound. Through Echo's network, the military crews felt the genuine emotions of the alien partners. Love for their human friends, protectiveness toward the children on the station, sadness at being forced to fight people they had never wanted to harm. One by one, the military ships ceased firing. Some withdrew from the battle entirely. Others moved to defensive positions around the station, their crews having made a choice that would likely end their military careers. Park's flagship found itself alone, surrounded by dozens of ships whose crews now refused to follow orders they recognized as morally wrong. This is mutiny, Park transmitted to her own fleet. This is humanity, came the reply from one of her own captains. We joined the military to protect people, not to murder children and their families. Echo made one final sound, a deep, resonant call that seemed to echo through space itself. In response, 3 massive shapes appeared at the edge of the sensor range. The adult dragons who had confronted the colony weeks earlier had followed the conflict. But instead of joining the battle, they simply watched, waiting to see what choice the humans would make. Sam felt Echo's exhaustion through their link. Coordinating the entire defense had pushed his abilities to their limit. She knelt beside him and placed her hand on his head. You did it, boy. You showed them what we could be together. Echo made a soft purring sound and leaned against her. Around them, the station's defenders began to relax as the immediate threat passed. But Sam knew this was just the beginning. Word of what had happened would spread throughout human space. The idea that different species could work together as equals, that aliens could be partners rather than subjects or threats, would change everything. Park's voice came over the communication system one last time, filled with defeat. This isn't over, Dr. Rivers. There will be consequences. Sam looked at Echo, then at the dozens of humans and aliens who had risked everything to stand together. You're right, General. There will be consequences. Good ones. The blind dragon hatchling who had been abandoned by his own kind had found something more valuable than acceptance. He had found the power to bring different species together in friendship and mutual protection. And in doing so, He had given both humanity and alien kind a glimpse of what their future could look like together. The morning air on Haven's world carried the scent of blooming crystal flowers and the sounds of children playing in the distance. Sam stood on the observation deck of their new home, watching the sunrise paint the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. Beside her, Echo had grown to his full adult size, nearly 20 feet from nose to tail, his scales now a deep midnight blue that sparkled with flecks of silver. 6 months had passed since the battle at the asteroid station. The aftermath had been as dramatic as Echo had predicted. News of the bonded pairs and their successful defense had spread across human space, sparking debates, protests, and ultimately, change. Echo was no longer the only prime dragon living among humans. Over the past months, 17 others had arrived at Haven's world, drawn by the telepathic beacon he maintained. Each one had their own story of rejection and survival, but all had found acceptance in the growing community. "Echo, breakfast is ready," called David, the former research scientist who now served as the settlement's coordinator. His partner, an alien who could predict weather patterns, had warned them of a storm approaching that afternoon. Echo made his familiar clicking sounds and lifted his great head. Despite his size, he moved with the same gentle precision Sam remembered from his hatchling days. He never used his full strength around the human residents, always careful not to accidentally harm someone with his massive claws or powerful tail. The settlement had grown to house over 300 humans and their alien partners. The Galactic Council had officially recognized Haven's world as an independent sanctuary, after months of political pressure from across human space. General Park had been reassigned to a desk job, while several of the military officers who had refused her orders were now serving as security coordinators for the growing network of bonded pair communities. Sam walked alongside Echo as they made their way to the central plaza, where the community gathered each morning. The buildings were a unique blend of human engineering and alien biotechnology, creating structures that seemed to grow from the landscape rather than being imposed upon it. Children ran between Echo's legs as they passed, both human and alien youngsters who had never known a time when the species were separate. Echo made soft rumbling sounds that Sam had learned were his version of laughter. The young ones had no fear of his massive form, and he delighted in their company. "Dr. Rivers," Beth approached with her partner Shimmer glittering beside her. "We've received word from the outer colonies. Another bonded pair has requested sanctuary. A human engineer and her partner who can manipulate gravitational fields." Sam nodded. "Have them routed through the usual channels. Lisa can do the emotional screening while Echo assesses the alien's integration potential." The screening process had become necessary as word of the sanctuary spread. Not every human who claimed to have bonded with an alien was genuine, and not every alien seeking refuge was compatible with community life. Echo's telepathic abilities made him uniquely qualified to distinguish between true partnerships and those formed for less honest reasons. As they reached the plaza, Sam saw a familiar sight that never failed to make her smile. Echo's mother, who now went by the name Skyfire, was teaching a group of young dragons how to use their sonar abilities without frightening the human residents. The adult dragons who had initially come to confront Echo had become the settlement's most dedicated protectors. "The morning briefing is ready," announced Lisa, approaching with Whisper at her side. Over the months, the otter-like creature had become the settlement's early warning system, able to detect potential threats or problems days before they manifested. The briefing took place in the community center, a large building designed to accommodate beings of all sizes and shapes. Sam took her usual seat beside Echo, who coiled his massive form in a space specifically designed for him. "First item," David began, "we've received approval for the expansion project. Construction on the new residential area will begin next month. The expansion was necessary to accommodate the steady stream of refugees seeking sanctuary." Word had spread beyond just bonded pairs. Humans who disagreed with their government's alien policies had begun requesting permission to immigrate, along with various alien species who had heard about the community, where all species were treated as equals. Second item, the research division has completed their analysis of prime dragon abilities. "Echo, would you like to present the findings?" Echo lifted his head and made a series of complex sounds that were translated through the community's communication system. His voice, when rendered into human speech, was deep but gentle. "We have learned that prime dragons are not mutations or anomalies." Echo's translated words filled the chamber. We are evolution's attempt to create bridges between species. Our abilities grow stronger in diverse communities, suggesting that we were meant to serve as facilitators of interspecies cooperation. The research had revealed that prime dragons like Echo became more powerful when surrounded by multiple species. Their telepathic range increased. Their ability to coordinate complex operations grew more sophisticated, and most remarkably, they began developing new abilities that seemed tailored to the needs of their communities. This has implications beyond our settlement, Sam added. It suggests that the galaxy's various species were meant to work together, not remain isolated. A new voice spoke from the back of the chamber. Which is why we're here. Sam turned to see a group of beings she had never encountered before. They appeared humanoid but with crystalline skin that refracted light in beautiful patterns. Their leader stepped forward. I am Ambassador Crystal Song of the Ethereal Collective. We represent a coalition of species from the far galactic rim. We have been watching your experiment with great interest. Echo made questioning sounds, and Crystal Song responded in a language of pure musical tones that somehow conveyed meaning directly to the mind. My people have been isolated for millennia, Crystal Song explained. We believed other species were too primitive for meaningful contact. Your community has proven us wrong. We request permission to establish a cultural exchange program. The request sparked excited discussion throughout the chamber. The Ethereal Collective was legendary among spacefaring species, but they had never initiated contact with younger civilizations before. Echo says yes, Sam announced after a brief telepathic consultation. But he wants to know what changed your minds about primitive species. Crystal Song's crystalline features shifted in what might have been a smile. A blind dragon hatchling taught the galaxy that wisdom doesn't require perfect sight. That strength doesn't require aggression. That leadership can come from those who were abandoned. Later that evening, Sam found herself back on the observation deck watching the stars emerge in Haven's world's clear sky. Echo had curled himself around the base of the platform, his massive form providing warmth against the cooling air. Regrets? Sam asked quietly, scratching behind the horn ridges that had grown more prominent as Echo matured. Echo made his contented purring sound. None. Found family worth more than birth family. Found purpose worth more than acceptance. In the distance, the lights of the settlement twinkled like earthbound stars. Humans and aliens moved between buildings, working together on projects that would have been impossible for any single species to accomplish alone. The colony that wanted to kill you is requesting a sister city agreement, Sam mentioned with amusement. Times change. People learn. Even those who fear first can choose friendship later. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Sam activated her personal communicator and was surprised to see General Park's face appear. Dr. Rivers, I hope you'll forgive the intrusion. General, Sam replied carefully. This is unexpected. I wanted to inform you personally that the Colonial Defense Force is implementing new protocols for first contact situations. Based on what we observed at your settlement, we're establishing procedures for peaceful integration rather than immediate threat assessment. Sam glanced at Echo, who had lifted his head to listen. What changed your mind? Park was quiet for a moment. I reviewed the psychological profiles of the soldiers who refused my orders that day. They weren't acting out of weakness or alien influence. They were acting out of strength. The strength to recognize that being different doesn't automatically mean being dangerous. Echo will be pleased to hear that. There's something else. My daughter is 15 and she's been asking questions about the bonded pair program. She wants to apply for the cultural exchange program when she comes of age. Sam smiled. Echo says she would be welcome here. And General, it's never too late to learn that the galaxy is bigger and more wonderful than we first imagined. After the transmission ended, Sam sat in comfortable silence with Echo. The dragon's white eyes, which had once seemed like a disability, now reflected the starlight with an inner luminescence that seemed almost magical. Thank you, Sam said quietly. For what? For teaching me that family isn't about where you come from. It's about who chooses to stand beside you. Echo made his soft clicking sounds, the same sounds he had used as a frightened hatchling to navigate a world he couldn't see. Now those sounds had become the foundation for a new kind of communication between species that had once viewed each other as threats. As the night deepened, more residents of the settlement ventured outside to enjoy the clear sky. Humans and aliens, adults and children, all living together in the kind of harmony that politicians had once declared impossible. Echo settled his great head beside Sam's chair, just as he had done as a hatchling. Despite his size and power, despite the respect he commanded from dragons and humans alike, he still sought the simple comfort of sleeping beside his first friend. In the morning, there would be new challenges. More refugees to screen, more expansions to plan, more skeptics to convince that diversity made the galaxy stronger rather than weaker. But tonight, under the stars of Haven's world, the blind dragon hatchling who had once been abandoned in a cave slept peacefully beside the human who had given him his first taste of unconditional love. And in that simple scene lay the seeds of a future where no being would ever again be abandoned simply for being different.